Hello. Art really opens doors, and so often it is more than just a final piece. Today, we are talking a little bit about the Mexican bark painting, or papel amate, which is bark paper, and the tree of life. And what I love about this lesson plan is it's a great opportunity for students to learn about a whole different culture. And when we open that door, it then opens up conversation about your own culture and about who you are, which is why I have Jenny Calvitis with me today. I am Chris Bakke, and we are customer engagement managers at Nasco. Jenny works in the career solutions, which contains social and emotional learning, amongst many other things. I work on the art side of things, and together we partnered on some of the Nasco Artworks lessons to include social and emotional learning. We know that art teachers do this in the classroom anyways, but the nice part is Jenny did a really nice job in working with us on these SEL power-up reflections. And will you talk a little bit about how that came to be?
Absolutely. So Nasco has worked with SEL for a few years now, but of course, with the way that the world has changed, all of us are focusing on our social and emotional learning even more these days. So we began looking at our lesson plans and recognizing that because SEL is cross-curricular, many of our lesson plans actually had SEL themes and tones in them, and it was just a matter of giving those ideas the breathing space and bring them up through some reflections and some questions. So we have these SEL power-ups because we want to empower our students to recognize, their emotions and share something of themselves. And I love this lesson plan too because, as Chris said, it brings in different cultures into our classrooms. And because of the diversity of our youth are the most diverse population in the United States. There are so many cultures that are able to come to light and share some of that symbolism. So if you have a diverse classroom, you can have students even talk about what different colors might mean to them and how the symbol of a tree is around the world. And I love that trees kind of symbolize this idea of life for many different cultures. So it's an amazing, project because of that. And the questions that we ask really get to those ideas of social awareness, which is one of the core competencies that CASEL has put forward for social emotional learning. CASEL is this great organization, it's been around for about 30 years, that has done a ton of research in this area, and when we rely here at NASCO on the work that CASEL has done. So this idea of social awareness and self-awareness comes through in a great way in this lesson plan, and our power-up questions simply only allows a conversation around those ideas that were really baked into this project, but that you want to make sure you discuss to make sure that your SEL is focused and explicit in your lesson.
The lesson in and of itself, we won't spend a super long time on because a lot of you have art education backgrounds and you know exactly what you're doing. The lesson plan gives the directions, and it also gives the materials on the back. What we are doing today is an alternate version because we want to help virtual learners or teachers that maybe in a classroom setting want to incorporate art in but don't have that education background. So we're using a lot of the supplies that come in the zippered bag. It is called our elementary art kit, and it has the basics in it. What I want to show you is that this actually started off as a lunch bag, and then I simply cut the bottom of the lunch bag off, and then I just trimmed up both the sides. Usually you have access to a brown paper bag. This can be done on a larger scale too. So you can start off and I've got a finished piece here, and I think I will actually start off with the finished pieces just because that's going to give you some idea of the wide variety of things you can do. This one started off with some crayon and then was embellished, and then I just took black watercolor and it resisted all the crayon. This one I actually did the crumpling first and then put the watercolor on, and then used marker, and it just has a completely different look to it. This one, I used a variety of brown and black, and it gave it a much darker look, and then within the tree, I put some round circles and then put images that maybe had to do with myself. So there's a wide variety. This lesson plan is going to give you step-by-step direction, but I wanted to show, again, the diversity. And so you can actually start by drawing your picture first, and this is going to seem wrong. It's going to seem like, what are you doing? And Jenny, if you want to draw, you feel free to start drawing your tree on there. It's totally up to you, and this probably sounds so loud. I apologize for that. But by crumpling it up, that's going to give that feel of that mate paper, which is very specialized paper that has that bark feel and bark look to it. I can crumple it up first and then start drawing. And this is when you want to talk about, I wouldn't have students just go free for all like I'm doing right now. I would have them make a plan and talk about what their tree of life is going to represent and what they're going to create on it. And that alone will do some real natural conversation, because as we're sitting here, you can start having conversations. Jenny, what are you doing? You know, and what's your idea? What is it that you want to portray?
And talking about those symbols too that go throughout cultures, does a really great job of bringing in those ideas of social awareness, because you want to make sure that you recognize that there are different cultures and different meanings to these things that we see all the time. So giving that time as you draw, you know, what's important symbol in one culture, asking students, you know, what else they see at home and what kind of things are important in their family is a powerful conversation to learn about others.
I love the fact that with this lesson plan too, it does give you an opportunity to talk about diversity. It does give you an opportunity to, if you have a student that is of Hispanic culture, to share more about what they do in their family. And maybe if there's more than one student, you learn about each of their families, because just because somebody is Hispanic doesn't mean everybody does the same thing, like in every family. So it's fun to hear the different ways that they experience their culture within their home. Once the drawing is finished, you can then use the watercolor, and I would suggest brown or black, and then to go over it. Now, in a marker situation, you're not going to have that resist, but in a colored pencil and an oil pastel, it's going to resist. And I think this particular one looked a little bit the best because there's so many colors in there, and it sort of showed the nooks and crannies. You can crunch it up as many times as you want and keep working at getting that, sort of building that watercolor up to get the look that you want. This can be done with grades 3 through 5 is what the lesson plan recommended, but quite honestly, it can go all the way up to a high school level because it's going to match their level of ability. Jenny, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for the power-ups, because it's a great way to get students talking. And we all know that creativity is a form of communication and getting your students engaged. We hope that you keep coming back, and we absolutely hope you keep teaching and doing what you do in education.